We kind of always had a camera with us. We would document everything, and we were definitely a family that would get out and see things.
Hi, I'm Barney Britton, editor of dpreview.com. I've come to New Mexico in the company of Josh Trujillo, professional photojournalist and a Santa Fe native. Josh has come back to the town where he grew up to spend some time away from work and see family, exploring the landscape around Santa Fe with us and revisiting some of the sights of his childhood. In his job as a photographer for a busy news website, Josh uses a professional DSLR outfit. For this trip back to his hometown, Josh is travelling light, leaving his usual equipment back in Seattle and shooting exclusively with the Canon PowerShot G7 X, Canon's premium pocketable compact camera.
In my career, I've covered a few large stories, one being Afghanistan back in 2001, and ended up being one of the first US photojournalists in the country. The appetite for information was so incredibly high at that point that for a lot of us out in the field, that was our first experience with digital cameras.
Every morning I would get up and go to the computer and check to make sure he had photos, because if there were photos that you had taken there, I knew you were safe.
I've always thought of myself as an early adopter, and I want to try to push myself to embracing whatever's out there in the market and using that. As manufacturers are pushing that envelope, I'm able to find more applications of that technology into my day-to-day work.
The PowerShot G7 X features a 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor, coupled with a zoom lens that covers an equivalent focal length range of 24 to 100 millimeters. Its optically stabilized lens is also relatively bright, offering a maximum aperture of f1.8 at its wide end and f2.8 at the full telephoto setting. Designed to appeal to enthusiasts who want a small, high-quality camera, the G7X is slim but well built, offering a metal body and full manual control. Still image quality is excellent, particularly in RAW mode, and manual movie feature allows for the capture of stabilized HD video with full manual exposure control at up to 60p. The G7X also features an articulated, touch-sensitive LCD screen, which flips up for easy self-portraits. Wireless connectivity is easy via Canon's Camera Connect smartphone app. This allows you to control the camera remotely and browse and save images to your smartphone.
Santa Fe is a very photogenic place. The color palette of the blue sky and the brown adobe walls, and then you'll see like a fence painted bright red or a brilliant blue window frame. So it's a great place to go and wander with the camera.
So Josh, we're inside the Church of Our Lady of Guadalupe. I know you have a lot of history with this particular church.
Yeah, I grew up in this church and my family's been coming here for generations. My dad was a deacon in this church. Inside the church there's an altar screen from the 1700s and they don't allow flash in there. So we were able to really push the low light capabilities of the camera. I love the way the light just streams in from the window there. I love this flip out screen because it saves my knees. We photographed this statue in front of the church. 12-foot tall, 12,000 pound image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is a very important image to people here in Santa Fe. I actually did a book on that statue. Traveled down to Mexico City to the foundry where it was being made and documented the final stages of its construction. You know, I come from a family where my father, through his involvement with the church, is deeply involved in social justice and always has been. You know, every week he goes and spends time with inmates. And as a visual journalist with a camera, you can kind of bring some light into that world. Sometimes it's really nice to just have a camera that is very low-key, unobtrusive, quiet, yet very capable. Can be a huge benefit for documentary photographers, for photojournalists.
Despite being a compact camera, the G7X offers several features that will be familiar to Canon's DSLR shooters. As well as full manual exposure control and the ability to shoot RAW, a Digic 6 processor, the same processor used in Canon's high-end DSLRs, helps to deliver clean high ISO image quality as well as a fast maximum frame rate of 6.5 FPS in JPEG mode.
So typically I shoot with all manual controls. So it is nice to have a point and shoot that allows me to adjust my aperture, my shutter speed manually. We wandered over to the farmer's market in the afternoon where I came upon a street performer named Michael, who actually is a family friend. He let me do some portraits of him in front of a door that had some design that kind of mirrored his look and the clothes he was wearing. Photographed one of the vendors there really nice guy with a great hat, and he was standing near a red doorway. One of the things I really enjoy about photography and portraiture work is getting to just talk to people and engage with them. It gives you an excuse to do that. And I definitely find with smaller cameras, you can interact with the subject a lot more. The following day, we headed out to Tent Rocks. My father and I had never been there before, so we decided to make it a father-son trip. Oh wow, check out this view.
That's nice. I think that's the best one we've had in the canyon.
Gorgeous place. You know, slot canyons, fantastic rock formations. Sometimes I wish my SLR had a screen that flipped out like this, because it could help me with those unique angles.
During most of the time we were in New Mexico, the weather was relatively cool. But at Tent Rocks, the skies cleared and the temperature soared. This was an ideal opportunity to use the G7X's automatic exposure bracketing and HDR modes, not to mention the built-in neutral density filter.
Having a camera with a wide dynamic range was really helpful because you have such bright whites and such dark shadows.
I think I might stick to exposure bracketing for everything down this canyon because the light's not going to get any easier.
The tightness of the canyon being, you know, just a couple feet apart was just a great place to test out that image stabilization. The walls of the canyon are just passing by you on your left and right, but it's rock solid, and somebody even commented on, wow, that looks like a Steadicam. At the end of the day, we headed up into the hills to catch the sunset up near Chimayo, New Mexico. Rarely do I stop, get out of the car, hike up into the hills, but we did that. As that evening light skips across the landscape, it really brings out the texture of the land.
Well, Josh, I think we may have found the ideal situation for vivid mode. Exposure bracketing and HDR modes are great for JPEG shooters in tricky light, but the G7X's 20 million pixel BSI CMOS sensor offers even more dynamic range in RAW mode, as you can see from this converted RAW file, where we lifted the shadows significantly.
We were definitely walking around in Ansel Adams and Georgia O'Keeffe country up there. Beautiful, beautiful place. At the end of the evening, I saw the moon setting on the horizon, and it was just gorgeous. I was able to use a slow shutter speed and the image stabilization on the camera and captured the moon as it set over an iconic rock formation north of Santa Fe. We ended the trip at a bar in downtown Santa Fe, El Paseo, which is a place where both my brother and sister have bartended at one time. It was pretty low light. You know, we were able to use the flash, push the ISO settings of the camera pretty far, and got some pretty good results. A lot of the scene was illuminated just by beer signs. When I get a new camera in my hands, it helps me to kind of reset and think differently and shoot a little bit differently and pay more attention to those basic elements of photography: light, shadow, composition, juxtaposition, all those things that really contribute together to make an image magical.
So I have a habit when I come to a new place, as any of my friends will tell you, of comparing it to Yorkshire. But this is absolutely nothing like Yorkshire. But in a good way for once.